Clearing my throat. Okay. System says go. Apparently we are live. Looking at shows that Luke and Raylene have been hanging out chatting while waiting. Clearing my throat. Okay. I don't often do that. Where's the... We are live. Looking at shows that Luke and Raylene... that really put me off. Okay. Now we're back. Okay, just getting everything organized. And hello, Miss Foxification here as well. And just finally fix up the little live chat window so I can see what everyone's saying. And we be off and running, I guess, for another fun night. Hopefully a fun night of hanging out, shooting the breeze. So many things happening, so many things to talk about. And who knows, you know, I haven't had any drama for a little while. Maybe we're going to have drama. I hope not. I prefer it without drama. My Fanta. God, that looks like a weird color. It doesn't look as weird to me. But yes, for those interested in such things, I discovered that this webcam, while being, you know, a decent HD thing, and I got the lights working better, so I don't look quite as much like a washed out ghost. The colors still not true. I wouldn't call it true colors because yes, it does look different to me. But yeah, look. So even mentioning the trolls by name, I don't know if that summons them somehow. Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? We'll see how we go. It's the usual adventure, I guess. We never know what's going to happen, and you know, it's all much of a muchness. I just had a really distracting thought. It's nothing to do with the live stream, and I've got to bring my brain back in line. Focus on. I'm Trump color. Oh God, this isn't Trump color. I could change the color balance, then I'd go super Trump color. God, I mean, it's one of the least troubling things about him, about Trump, but it still weirds me out a bit that his supporters aren't embarrassed just by how stupid he looks, like with that ridiculous badly applied fake tan and the fake hair. So, hi, Joel. Is your caps lock stuck? Is that Foxy? Always print a color test page. Hold up the camera. Mess with light. Yeah, it's. Oh, look. Okay. To start with your ending, it isn't that important to me. It's just an observation that the colors aren't exactly true. And while I do have some control over the white balance and color intensity with this camera, there's not a lot of control, and there's not a lot of fine tuning you can do. You can do sort of broad things. Like I said, I could either make myself look much more blue and pale or much more orange. You know, I can change brightness and whatnot as well. But yeah, this, again, although I'm talking about it, I'm not particularly obsessed by it. I'm happy enough with where it is now. Let's live with imperfection in this big troubled world of ours. Let's not, as they say, sweat the small stuff, and we'll move on. Catherine, that's a big thing, isn't it? I think that's a reasonable observation. You'd think someone as rich as Trump could afford people to coordinate him so he doesn't look like such a fucking clown. So his hair wasn't so stupid, so his skin wasn't so stupid, so his suits weren't so badly fitting, and the ridiculous length he has a tie. How can he not afford someone to actually fucking fix how he looks? I mean, I guess it's just that much of a raging narcissist that he's always sure he's correct. and doesn't need to listen to anyone else. Luke, the video that'll annoy a lot of people tomorrow. I'm going to do it tomorrow. But yeah, as we get through this live stream, I did want to talk about it and talk through some of the ideas, and maybe, maybe get a bit of feedback, maybe see what people think of some of the points I'm going to make. I have simply learned that from talking about this on social media, it pisses off a lot of people. I know it's going to piss people off. Oh dear. This box discussion, I think maybe he has cataracts, and so his color sense is off. Can't tell how orange he really is, and he can't tell how badly fitting he is. That's what I mean. He should hire someone. He is supposedly wealthy. He should hire someone to make. But yeah, again, it doesn't seem to matter. And honestly, let's get real. It shouldn't. Up until Trump, it always has mattered. I don't know if you remember, there was an incident where Obama wore a tan suit, and the conservatives lost their fucking mind. Like there was some fundamental transgression against society that had happened because Obama wore a tan suit. Fuck, that was weird. Hi, Tendai. Catherine, is that why old ladies get their hair dyed purple? I don't know. That's less common than it used to be. Ladies with their all-white hair, I grew up, they'd have a blue rinse or a purple rinse or a pink rinse. It was very much the thing. It was like basically almost every little old lady had a color rinse in their hair. You still do see it now, but not as much. Yeah, that's the thing that went out of fashion somewhat, the color rinse in an old lady's hair. God, but the whole thing with hairdressers is so weird. It's changed so much in my lifetime. Like in the 70s and probably into the 80s, ladies had their hair set once a week. So like being a hairdresser was a license to print money, because you had this endless parade of women coming in, the same women coming in every week to have their hair set, and they'd sleep with it all like wrapped up to protect it. And yeah, they'd get it touched up every week. And yeah, which was just a license for hairdressers to print money. And that went out of fashion, so hairdressing had to really change. But yes. So oh dear. So we're talking, okay, Miss Foxification, a hairdresser actually told you that thing about older people lose their sense of color. That's an interesting one. Aureline, you reckon some of the old ladies are doing more fun colors now? Well, that's good. I mean, because that's how in the future you'll know a photo of a young lady from the I guess from the noughties, but particularly now in the teens, the really brightly colored hair, the bright blues, purples, reds, pink, the really saturated bright colors is a thing that's become increasingly popular in the last 10 years. So I'm not surprised it sort of spread through a few generations. Alrighty, Lee, saying that's how it used to work. Saying Remy used to get set her hair before she got it permed. Okay. See, I was probably using the wrong term. I probably meant permed. I probably meant go to the hairdresser to have it permed. But I'm not a 70s hairdresser, so I used incorrect terminology. Hey, Luke, you know a woman who has bright blue hair. I think, yeah, you definitely see them. I mean, I come from a generation where, tattoos was still a novelty. In my youth, in the 90s, tattoos started to increase in popularity and move more mainstream in the 90s, and now quite extreme and unusual tattooing, like all over the body, is really commonplace. And of course, there's that stupid American rapper thing of getting face tattoos. My God, that's an ugly look. But anyway, Raylene, you're 46 in 2 weeks and your hair's blonde, pink, and purple. Excellent. I love it. Mystification. US politics is predominantly personality politics, so anything expressing personality seems to raise the RS hunger. That is true. And look, while I have my doubts, a single good thing will come out of a Trump presidency. Honestly, I hope the thing he's done, in that nothing he says or does counts for shit, I hope that expands, basically, because I think there have probably been quite good candidates who've been bumped off for an incredibly stupid, incredibly trivial thing. I don't want more politicians like Trump of any political persuasion, just loud and obnoxious and refusing to take responsibility for anything. I think that's horseshit. But I think if, thinking about US politics, if the Democrats get hardened the fuck up a bit and stop running away from every little thing, life would maybe be a bit better. So what about Mike Tyson's tattoo? I don't know. If you met Mike Tyson, are you going to say something negative about his face tattoo? I will let Mike Tyson have his face tattoo and not really pass comment on it, quite honestly. Oh, really? You're going to get a tattoo? Cool. I like tattoos. I actually don't have any, but obviously depending on the quality and placement of the tattoo. But in general terms, I quite like tattoos. I like that ridiculous, like, you shouldn't get a tattoo. Well, think about what you look like when you're old. You look cool, okay? Old people with tattoos look cool if they're good tattoos. So that ridiculous bullshit about, oh, what do you look like when you're old? You look cool. So forget that bullshit. That is a really bullshit argument. I mean, mind you, if you're going to get neck, a face, or hand tattoos, or even right down here tattoos, you better either be really good at something or be perfectly happy with minimum wage jobs your entire life, because prejudices against those sorts of tattoos, I don't think they're going away in a hurry. And I think in general terms, you would have a lot of trouble getting a job at anything above minimum wage if you have like extreme tattoos. It's basically, look, if it's you, it's you. I'm not going to spend any time particularly criticizing anyone for it, but I hope you're ready for the repercussions, because the repercussions are real. No matter how many people tell you it's cool, be yourself, have tattoos running down your hand, on your face, on your neck, there will continue to be an enormous amount of judgment about those things, and it will have a whole bunch of negative impacts on your life. I like that, Raylene. You saw a 90-year-old lady with an ankle tattoo and a tramp stamp. She must have had a fascinating life. I reckon she probably did live a good life. All right, you were working in aged care, helping Sharo. Cool. I reckon, yep, she really knew what was what. I've seen photo essays online a couple of times of older people, and that would be both men and women, and I'd say they ranged from their 60s to their 80s, and broadly, they looked really cool. Even as a guy not with really arty tattoos, like a Navy guy who just has old Navy tattoos, but other people had more artistic tattoos. I thought they just looked cool. Sort of answered that question. Oh, what do you look like when you're old? You'll look cool. Piercings, on the other hand, I mean, normal piercings, fine. But the people who go for the extreme piercings, particularly like the ones really stretching the ears out, I can't look at them without thinking, I don't see a future that's anything but you regretting doing that. Like when you get older, your skin just sags anyway. And if you've deliberately stretched bits of your skin out as you get older, it's going to get more difficult to manage. And the likelihood that you'll have to have some sort of surgical correction increases. And again, like I said, I'm not going to make a big thing about it. I'm not going to lose a lot. I'm not going to make a lot of effort into telling someone who's done any sort of extreme body mods that will probably be a bit more difficult to deal with as you get older, and the likelihood of you regretting it when you get older is fairly high. But you know, hey man, if it's what you want to do, it's what you want to do. But yeah, the stretchy piercings, I think a lot of people who get them done don't put a lot of thought into the practical effects of that later in life. Were you saying misclassification is like any artwork, it wears out? You're saying tattoos wear out? They don't really. Oh my God, I love that, really. The old lady's tattoos were very bogan. Tramp's neck was the Collie Wobbles logo, Collingwood football team, I assume we're talking about here. And a square word and a ball and chain tat on an angle. Awesome. I think she's done time in jail. I'm just throwing it out there. Oh my God, there's a guy I knew who spent a lot of time in jail from his teen years. I think when I met him, he was late 20s and he was in prison. There was a prison in the town where I was at college. We would occasionally visit prisoners. And he had a lot of tattoos that had been done. I think they'd all been done in prison, though I'm not sure. But his oddest one to me, on his forearm, it was a chicken that was being hanged, and the chicken being hanged, it was just written under it, "Joke, cunt." I thought, okay, that's unusual. And I'd never seen it before. I haven't seen it since. So that was an interesting choice for a tattoo. As it was really, okay, the lady swore like a wharfie. I'm seeing a picture. Look, maybe not jail, but maybe literally working in something like the wharfs or construction or something really full, or maybe hang out with biker gangs. I don't know. I think you're right, though. She probably had a very colourful life. I see what you're saying is foxification. With a lot of tattoos, if you don't maintain them, touch them up, they fade. That's a fair point. Tattoos do have a tendency to fade with age. Probably depends on exactly how it was done, how much it fades. But you are right, that does happen. Yes, maybe misfoxification. Maybe his choking chicken was a choke the chicken reference. It was a somewhat negative representation of it. So I'm not sure where he stood on the whole question of choking the chicken. It was not a particularly favorable representation. What are the classic bogan Aussie tattoos? Of course, the most bogan is Southern Cross. Ned Kelly is another one. Obviously, a football club is another one. Miss Foxification, did you seriously Google the choke chicken tattoo? Okay, now I have to do it. Not that you will see this, but if I go tattoo chicken choke cunt. Okay, that turned up a really, really weird thing. No, I'm not seeing chicken tattoos. Maybe I use different search terms. Sorry, a guy with a tattoo on his lower torso just above his dick saying caution, choking hazard. How stupid is he going to look when that doesn't come true? Oh, and then a lady with a tattoo in the same place, but hers says Boner Garage. Well, that's pretty funny. Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, and another guy with a tattoo that says it won't suck itself. I mean, honestly, when is that going to improve your chances? Like if someone's in the process of like taking your shirt off, taking your pants down, and there's a tattoo that says it won't suck itself, I honestly think you're probably blowing your chances there. Oh, Catherine, black tribal tattoos. Those were big in the 90s, and now people are apparently embarrassed by them because of some of the people who ended up getting it. Oh, well, misfoxifications. Oh, you searched for hung chicken tattoo. Let me see. If I change it to that. Oh, yeah, okay. There are a lot of variations of it. I just like that his variation said choke cunt under it. And of course, that search revealed people who got Nando's tattoos. Because why not get a fucking brand tattooed on you? A corporate brand. Oh, good God. That's such a poor life choice. In my humble opinion, getting brand tattoos is really dodgy. Oh, God, you all thought there was a joke about blowing your chances. No. Oh, Miss Fox, so you do bumper stickers are bogan tattoos, yeah. And people who get slogans tattooed on them, that's interesting. That can look quite good, but of course it's super bad choice time when there's spelling mistakes in there. And my personal favorite is the homophobic people who get the verse from I think it's Leviticus that says, "The man lays with another man, it's an abomination." And the reason I find that funny is because only a few verses away from that is another law that says you can't get tattoos. So incredibly selective reading of the Bible there. Yes, Tendo, that's the most famous one, no regrets. But yes. That musical lady had a girl and you had a thing for tattoos of Totoro. Okay. Totoro stomach had a white ink tattoo, pale-skinned redhead. Oh, yeah. Actually, white ink tattoos can be interesting. I've seen a few of those about. Oh, and plus the ones where they use a UV ink, one that's close to invisible in normal light, but shows up really brightly under UV light. I've seen those in the clubs sometimes. Yeah, I'm not sure about the relative toxicity of the different sorts of inks. I don't know if there's any different risk with the different sorts of inks. Yes, I was just thinking, worst tattoo I've seen. I probably don't even want to go into it. I mean, probably when you get into worst tattoo, it normally depends on your taste of what's worse. Like sometimes a well-executed tattoo, but just of a thing you find distasteful, you might think is the worst tattoo. Obviously, there's really badly drawn tattoos, and they just look really fucking terrible. And yeah, then when we get down to words, it's like if you've got a misspelled tattoo or if the script is really shitty. you might think that's the worst tattoo you can get. But yes, it's got to be down to what your taste is, what makes a bad tattoo, I think. Oh, Raylene, sorry, Belinda, I saw that. Those really full-on wildfires in California, ripping through Malibu and other areas around LA, destroyed, I don't think they even know how many homes got destroyed. I think there is a significant number of people missing, so they're quite worried about the potential death toll from that, although the people may simply be missing, and when things settle down, they might be found again. But yes, in a surprising turn of events, Trump made a couple really fucking stupid and insulting tweets, blaming bad forest management for the fires in California when it's not actual forests. It's quite, but I mean, he's a piece of shit. You know, it seems almost superfluous to point it out. It's like, wow, Trump's a piece of shit, isn't he? He tweeted or said some really shitty things, and he just doesn't stop tweeting and saying shitty things and doing shitty things and being worthless fucking garbage. And he seems to suffer no ill effects from it. So I actually try not to put too much effort into worrying what a piece of fucking garbage he is. I mean, obviously I do make videos about it, but I mean day to day, my personal life. And I don't think it's an unreasonable thing to think about. Wow, Trump's really fucking worthless garbage. Like, he's hideous. He's an obvious criminal, and he's obviously a completely fucking repugnant human excuse for a human. But I don't think it's good for your mental health to spend too much time obsessing about it. Oh yeah, really, that was the other one. I was going to mention that too. In the Remembrance Day ceremonies, which were, of course, the 100th anniversary of the World War I armistice, and Trump was with some other world leaders in France, and he didn't actually go to the memorial service because it was going to be raining. He didn't want to go out in the rain. And so everyone else is shitting on him for that as he disagrees. Sorry, Catherine, that made me laugh. It's like, yes, what is the world now that people just go, oh my God, the US president is a piece of shit, and no one bats an eye. But by the same token, I mean, it's almost as if we're forgetting the Republicans non-stop obsessed about Obama being the devil and, you know, being a secret Kenyan Muslim spy who wants to overthrow America. Basically, they never stopped saying extreme things that were almost all complete lies. I mean, there's a lot to find fault with in the Obama presidency. It's just the things I would find fault with are things that most Republicans would think were good, like, you know, bombing civilians with drone strikes and increasing the surveillance state, punishing whistleblowers more, you know, basically expanding government interference in people's lives. Essentially, things Republicans are 100% A-OK with if it's their guy doing it. And yeah, never let it be said, you can upset a lot of Obama supporters and Democrats if you dare to point out the rather terrible failings in his presidency, you know, propping up bloated corporate structures, protecting corporate people to the detriment of ordinary working people. But all stuff that Republicans do, and they're fine with it if it's their guy doing it. But yes. Yes, Belinda, blame it on the rain. Oh my God, that's Milli Vanilli. That's the big scandal from the 90s. Milli Vanilli were a pop act to sort of good-looking mixed race guys, and they had a couple of really big hit singles. They won Grammys, they won all these music awards, and then it turned out they were just lip syncers. The record company hired them because they looked really cool, and they had session musicians singing on it, and Milli Vanilli were just lip syncers, and it was this huge drama. It's like, oh, gotta bloody take their Grammys back. So we are like, oh my god, that was a big drama. But I mean, ever since, you know, 50s rock and roll started morphing into pop, there's been acts that were complete creations of the studio. You know, 50s heartthrobs, you know, through the 60s, you know, the Monkees were an invented American variation of the Beatles, you know, and the disco era had a lot of people who were, you know, just lip singing dance tunes. There's more of it in the 80s. It just never stops. The recording industry fabricates pop stars all the time, or even when the actual pop star is doing their own singing or playing their own instruments, an overwhelming number of them, they aren't like self-made artists. They didn't, you know, suffer for their art and stuff. The record company auditioned thousands upon thousands of people, and they have like session musicians on their books, and every now and then they go, oh, we're going to put some money into you and make you a pop star. And even if the person can actually sing and perform, they're a completely constructed entity by the recording industry. So yeah. Oh my God, Raylene, that was another good one. Yes, there's a photo of when Putin arrives, and Trump's got this look of pure joy on his face with his big smile. Oh, it's my pal Putin. And then you see like Merkel and Macron looking at him like, and they've got really stern looks on their face like, fuck you, Putin. And Trump's going, oh, he's my favorite fucking dictatorial thug. I love him so much. And the others are going, oh my God, here comes that dictatorial thug. Rambling Johnny, Boney M did that. Did what? They auditioned people to be in it. See, that wouldn't surprise me. A lot of disco acts did that. They auditioned people who just looked good. You know, the Village People is a really notorious one. All the guys in that were just auditioned for their looks, and there was a whole pre-packaged thing that was going to be the Village People. I mean, it even happened in punk. You had the genuine punk bands, and then when punk took off, various scammers in the record industry said, oh, punk's big, we're going to create a punk band, you know, we're going to tailor its look and have its message, like really shitty one, Sham 69, you know, a ridiculous song titled, If the Kids Are United, They Will Never Be Divided. Like, oh, fuck off. But yes, I think, Miss Foxication, you raise a good point. Trump is going to love Bolsonaro. For those who haven't heard of it, that is the recently elected president of Brazil, who's a complete fascist. Again, not a figure of speech. He's on record as praising previous military dictatorships, and he's like, his only problem with them was they didn't execute enough people. He thinks the world would be better if the military dictatorships had executed more of these damn leftists. But yeah. Charlie's saying that, oh, the guy who did the voices for Milli Vanilli also did vocals for Boney M. That would make sense. I mean, that frontman for Boney M, I think he only died recently, actually. I think I remember seeing something about that, about him dying. Yeah. Belinda, Frank Farian was behind the Milli Vanilli fraud. Yeah. Yes. Doesn't that kind of seem quaint now? It's like, oh, everyone got upset about the fact this pop act was just lip syncer. When we look at the pop charts now, we really look and go like, oh no, I have virtually no question that 75% of them can't sing, that they're being fixed up in the studio. I mean, auto-tune's the obvious one, but even not that, but other things. But yeah, I think most of us, if we have an honest look at the pop charts, even if you like them, even if you like the songs they put out, you can go, no, I'm not going to be at all surprised if that individual can't actually sing, that it's all just studio stuff. Oh yes, Raylene, everyone was sad on interwebs today because Stan Lee died. And I mean, seriously, I've been expecting that for a couple of years. He's been in poor health for a couple of years now. In fact, I think people were relatively subdued. People were expressing their sorrow, and they felt bad that Stan Lee had died because he was such a big figure in comics and pop culture in the 20th and into the 21st century. But I thought people would lose their fucking minds when he died. And I think people have been relatively constrained. Hey, Joshua, what's that? Bro, they weren't even them. I'm not even sure who they are in that case. Was them pretending the song... What? Right, okay. I will excuse you, Joshua, because you came in late. But that was the exact conversation that Milli Vanilli were just straight up lip syncing. But I think conservatively, 75% of people in the pop charts can't sing. They're just being doctored in the studio. Raylene, you like the X-Men? I think that puts you in a minority if you think X-Men is the best one. I like X-Men movies. I've always been in awe of Wolverine, in making Wolverine have some credibility. Hugh Jackman did an amazing job in just giving Wolverine gravitas. Because honestly, when you look at it, the character Wolverine in the comics can be just a dumb macho fantasy. And it's very hard to translate that into a movie without looking stupid. And I think Hugh Jackman largely managed that without looking stupid. And plus, I'm totally in awe of Hugh Jackman because he can be both Wolverine and Peter Allen, you know, toughest, roughest, hairiest comic book character, all jacked, and gayest musical theatre star. He can do both. You got to respect that, someone who can do that. World of Cricket, hello. Yes, Miss Foxification, Stanley made it to 95, which is a pretty good run. Tendo, that's a perfect pun. Huge jacked man. I did really like the last one where he pulled off the really jacked one was Days of Future Past, where they mixed up the two casts, the young X-Men and the older X-Men, and Wolverine goes back in time. I think that was the last time he did the really jacked man. And I remember seeing interviews with him. He just said like, oh no, I don't look like that all the time. We had to schedule those shoots where I was going to be shirt off and flexing because I had to spend like a week in the gym just pushing really hard and then not have fluids for 24 hours before so my skin started to tighten up to really show off. He said they had to really plan the shooting days where he was going to be shirt off and looking really jacked, which I thought was interesting. I asked Catherine, I still haven't seen Greatest Showman, but yeah, I'm so in awe of Hugh Jackman that he can do musical theatre and action films as well. He's got real range, that boy. I like hearing drone flying. Oh, what's it like drone flying in high wind? Is it a bit of a trial, I imagine? I kind of like the ideas of drones. but I don't actually have one. For PBR, Hugh Jackman's movie about Gary Hart out soon. I actually didn't know that. Rambling Johnny, you raise a good point. They can actually just do CGI packs for actors now to make them look really jacked. There's oh my god, I love comics. Like I don't know if everyone saw the Judge Dredd movie a couple of years ago. It was just called Dredd. Had what's his name from New Zealand in the role as Dredd. It's fucking great. It's such a good movie. It's based on a character Judge Dredd from a comic, an anthology comic called 2000 AD, which besides Judge Dredd stories, which have been running since the 70s, 2000 AD, as you might guess, for a comic that's been running since the 70s, they have a lot of really good stories. And one from about the 90s that I reckon would be great if they made, it's a character called Devlin War, and he's like a cross between Oscar Wilde and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like, he's this really camp, super gay British guy, but he's completely like steroid jacked. And in the first story they had for him in 2000 AD, it's called Swimming in Blood. He's fighting vampires. He's special envoy from the Vatican dealing with supernatural things, and he's fighting vampires. And I think Tom Hardy should play him. I think they should make a movie where Tom Hardy plays Devlin War, and I think they should CG him up. Like, Tom Hardy gets pretty big, but I think they should CG him up to be just super like steroid jacked. Joshua, sorry, you're saying Dredd was like the Raid. Right, I get what you're saying there, but the story, yeah, no, actually, no, I definitely, because the Raid was working your way through a building floor by floor. No, I get exactly what you're saying there. That's a reasonable point now. I didn't bother to see Venom. It didn't look very good to me. Oh, we're talking about CASA, no-fly limitations against drones. Look, I reckon we're that close to drones being all but illegal. Like, you'd have to have, I mean, you're supposed to have a license now, but I reckon we're that far from drones being so illegal that only a very small number of people would have the proper licensing to fly them. Because it's quietened down a bit now, but there was this building moral panic about them that, oh, drones are crashing and landing on people, or people could use drones for crimes or for terrorism, which they could. Wouldn't actually be hugely difficult to fly a drone laden with explosives into, say, a sporting stadium or whatnot. I'm actually mildly scared, not mildly scared, mildly surprised that there hasn't been a significant terrorism incident involving drones. Oh, PBR, Tom Hardy and Bronson. Yes. If you haven't seen that, that's a really full-on movie. It's inspired by a real criminal in the British justice system, except it's based on a stage play, and so it's got a lot of really stylistic stuff in it. Very, very interesting and weird movie, and he's really fucking scary in it. How do you feel, Osila? How are you doing? Oh, Josh, you're saying there's a lot of discussion online. You can Google Raid versus Dredd comparisons. Yeah, I don't think you can copyright the idea of someone fighting their way through a building. You can just identify too many stories where that's the story, so no one really owns it. Oh, Catherine, there was drone porn years ago. I remember seeing one years ago. Yes, basically people outdoors and drones flying around doing really big swooping shots. Yeah, I'm sure if you Google drone porn, a lot of it's going to show up. Luke, you think Canberra started drone fast food deliveries? I don't think drone delivery is going to be a big thing. I think drones are going to end up being really limited, actually. Okay, Rambling Johnny. With drones, with 3D printing, moonshining, if you start watching YouTube videos about it, you start thinking it's a good idea to drop a couple grand on it. Yeah. Oh, nice, Belinda. Drone delivery just won't take off. Boom tish. Let's do a rim shot. Yeah. Sheila, why am I talking about one thing and people do? The conversations, as per usual, are crossing over, Phil and Sheila. So talking about lots of different things. So yeah, and there's always a delay between comments when I see them and when you see my reaction to them. Like if you go past it once, there might easily be a minute between when someone's actually done a comment and when I see it and say something about it. Are you on jetpacks? Jetpacks are too dangerous. There are various sorts of jetpacks that exist. They're just unreliable and dangerous. Yeah, misfoxification, that sounds right. People talking about needing licenses for drones, and all drones have to have transponders. So when they're in the air, they can be tracked by authorities. I think there's going to be a massive crackdown on drones. The demand for it seems to have slowed a bit because, like I said, like a year or two ago, there was this rising moral panic. There were media stories about like drones crashing at events and hitting people and injuring people. And, oh, you could use it for crimes or terrorism. But I don't know if anyone else has been seeing that, but I haven't been seeing that lately. That's all kind of quietened down. I'm going to yawn, sorry. I'm going to give her a watch a yawn. It's like a form of hypnotism, yawning. So music elevator showed an interesting thing being used in airliner maintenance. Drones used to do inspections of hard to get to places like top to south. See, now that's a good use of drones. Quickly and easily getting to places that are a little difficult for people to get to. Aileen, you want Star Trek matter transporter. See, that renders the big moral question. Is that really you that comes out the other side or a replica of you? Like, does a transporter actually kill you? Like the system dissects you down to the atomic level, records how you were structured at the atomic level, and then recreates you at the other end, atom by atom. But is that really you, or did the matter transporter process effectively kill you, and it's just a copy of you at the other end that thinks it's you? That's the big moral and intellectual question about matter transporting. Oh God, now I'm stuck yawning. Also a good point, Catherine. Drones with cameras, good for search and rescue. They could certainly cover much more area, much more quickly than humans on foot could. Joshua is saying your mate drone drops beers over the fence if he sees you outside. Nice. That's a good use of future technology right there. Raylene, you prefer a transporter because you're not a good flyer. I understand that. Jendai, you also raise a good point. Building a portal on Mars that actually opens the gateway to hell, a la Doom. No one wants that. PBR, that's good. A Star Trek The Fly crossover movie. Have they ever done that on Star Trek? That something or someone extraneous got into the transporter stream and mutated. I know they have people occasionally like die in transporter things. It doesn't work properly and they don't make it to the other end. But have they ever done like a fly crossover? That's a good one. How's AZ? Honestly, not that great. I did talk to him the other day. He's got a couple of troublesome things going on that he is, of course, soldiering on through. But yeah, honestly, not great on the AZ front now. Belinda, you heard they're trialing Uber helicopters in Melbourne called Uber Chopper. I have not heard that. We do have a couple helipads in the city, so I guess theoretically someone might be doing it, but I have not heard that. Oh God! Oh, you're once and I can't stop. Okay, Musical Elevator has a fanfic story idea. Transporter operator. As friend talk slots used as a transporter. Story ends when he steps into the transporter to go somewhere for him to play. Okay. Oh, look, you heard the Chopper story too. Okay. Okay. Joshua, you raise a good point. The hologram of Rimmer on Red Dwarf. He thinks he's Arnold Rimmer, but he's a recreation. He's a hologram, but he thinks he's Arnold Rimmer. So is he Arnold Rimmer? That's the big question. The very big question. Oh, Luke, okay, that's the thing. They did that in Dubai or something. Little single-person drone aircraft taxis. I don't know that you'd get clearance to do that in Australia. I don't know how that works. How's the election going? Very hard to be sure. It's happening soon. The Liberals continue to push their extreme fucking racist lies, which annoys the shit out of me. I mean, it looks like the sitting government is going to be returned, possibly with an increased majority, but it's not a cut and dried thing, so who knows how it's going to work out. Pat talks, do I think Australia should have the death penalty? No, because you look around the world, the death penalty is misapplied on a regular basis. When you have the death penalty, it's regularly applied on people who either end up being proven innocent or there's a lot of questions about their conviction. So the simple answer is I oppose the death penalty because it's disproportionately used against minorities, and far too often people who end up being innocent of crimes are given death sentences, and you can't fucking walk it back, and it's not a deterrent. It simply isn't a deterrent. Nobody who's committing a murder or other serious crime stops and goes, I might get caught and face the death penalty. Maybe I shouldn't do that. People committing crimes don't consider getting caught and the penalties. It's as simple as that. CrossFitter should ban voting for everyone over 70. And look, I see where that's an appealing prospect, but I mean, you know, all things being equal, you're going to be 70 one day, and you are going to realize that's a harsh and horrible thing to say to you when you're still kicking around this world, that you don't count. You see? Ooh, Tendai, yes, I saw the Detective Pikachu trailer. Who saw the Detective Pikachu trailer? Live action Pokemon movie with CG rendered Pokemon and what's his name, Ryan Reynolds being the voice of Detective Pikachu. Looks like it might be funny. Looks like it might be worth watching. Could be terrible. Could be completely awful. But it could be good. It's really hard to tell. So Josh, I think Labor's been having pushed to the Bogan crowd with beer-friendly policy, drag racing pads. Maybe. Look, I think the most likely outcome is Labor will win, but it's not a sure thing. It's just the most likely outcome. Pat Talk, you think murder should have the death penalty? See, the thing is, people get convicted of murder who turn out to be innocent, and the US is the best example because they put so many people on death row, and you see the sentence is handed out disproportionately to black men. The death penalty is very unfairly applied. and it is regularly applied to people who turn out to be innocent. So the death penalty is fundamentally flawed. There's nothing good about it. It's just this idea of I want revenge, and that's not particularly healthy for anyone. Oh, Raylene, better than Palmer's ad. Well, I've been blessed in not seeing Palmer's ad. So there you go. Oh, yes. Yes, Luke, I saw the teaser for Toy Story 4. It will be very interesting. Oh, Tendai, you're on the money. Dub Deadpool into Detective Pikachu. God, do that quickly. You probably get 1 million views on YouTube. Really quickly dub some Deadpool lines onto Detective Pikachu. Or vice versa, dub some Detective Pikachu onto Deadpool. And I reckon 1 million views on YouTube, first person who does that. Oh yes, Raylene, particularly on Senate ballot papers, a lot of parties you won't have heard of. Joshua, I am with you that I think Daniel Andrews is broadly a good premier, and as you say, no one's flawless. There's always things that you can take issue, and you shouldn't just say that person's great and perfect. You should always question them, but broadly, I think he's a pretty good premier. World of Cricket Wankerfat Wednesday is the thing I'm going to do that's going to upset people. Charlie, do I remember the Pikachu Gladiator trailer? No, I don't. I said, Jason, fund every day that someone spends in prison. They killed any of them. Look, see, when I say the death penalty is wrong, I just mean, just look at it. It's wrong. It gets unfairly applied. It gets applied to people who turn out to be innocent. That's not saying there aren't people in the world that I wouldn't see put to death. I mean, there are cases where, you know, okay, this person's definitely guilty and they definitely did this thing. And if you ask me, would I happily see that person put to death? There's definitely people I'd say yes to and that. But in the broad question, should society have a death penalty? Absolutely not. And because for really concrete reasons. We see it all the time. We see it unfairly and disproportionately applied to minority groups, and we see it applied to people who turn out to be completely innocent. So the state should not have a death penalty because it's always used wrongly. Hi, Biori. Oh, misclassification, that's an interesting one. Consent. If the convicted person consented and said, yep, I'm guilty and you should execute me. That brings in an interesting element. If the convicted person said, yes, I'm guilty and you should execute me, I consent to execute, that brings in an interesting wrinkle, honestly. Oh, Raylene, your fur child is demanding attention. Good night. Thanks for having me. I'm going to get some more ice and pour myself another drink. Oh, it's nice. It's nice. Yes, Felix, we were laughing about Trump not going out in the rain. What a piece of shit he is. Musical Avid, no, Wankerfat Wednesday is not about the attack in Burke Street. Okay, I'm going to talk with you all about this. I'd be interested in your views on this. Okay, who heard the story about white supremacist shitbag and Fox News presenter Tucker Carlson having some protesters outside his house? Turns out he wasn't home when they were there. Fuck. He wasn't home when they were there, and got all these people, all these definitely centrists, but people who call themselves small L liberal and even left going, no, that's terrible. You shouldn't do that. Don't go to his house. Oh, what about his family? No. And my video is basically going to be, fuck that noise. Why in the motherfucking hell are you expending any energy whatsoever on that white supremacist piece of shit? And if someone's making his life difficult, he is literally promoting white supremacy. He's emboldening violent hate groups that actually go out and fucking murder people. He is a piece of shit. And the idea that you would expend energy going, oh no, that's not how we do things, that's not the right thing to do. It's like, yes, because you look historically, people who propose those views, whether it be white supremacy or outright fascism, they really listen when you're reasonable. Like, you don't have to take extreme and direct action against fascists and Nazis and white supremacists. No, you can just reason with them, because that always fucking works. And the idea is fucked. Just the idea. I just want to grab people and shake them and say, why in the ever-loving fuck are you expending any energy whatsoever depending this worthless fucking piece of shit when he is actively destroying the lives of other people and endangering the lives of other people? I mean, like the woman who testified against fucking Brett Kavanaugh, she's had to move house 4 times, is still in hiding because of constant death threats from the sort of fucking pieces of shit that love Tucker Carlson. She still can't go back to her job, and she didn't do anything wrong. She doesn't promote a hateful ideology. She just stood up and told the truth about a really fucked individual. Tucker Carlson is an active promoter and defender of white supremacy, and you're wasting fucking time going, you didn't do that. That's not the right thing to do. That's not how we do it. Like, fuck that noise. Oh, I didn't see, Joshua, you're saying, I assume you mean Carlson had an interview with Henk Uyghur, I don't know how to pronounce his name, from the Young Turks. But yeah, that dude is just fucking spineless. He's a limp, wet rag piece of shit. Yes, misfoxification, it's a perfect example, like with the Gamergate crowd. You know, people are worried you're vilifying Tucker Carlson for having the wrong opinion, as in promoting white supremacy, whereas you see things like Gamergate, women get vilified just for having an opinion, and their lives are threatened, and their lives are ruined. Tucker Carlson wasn't threatened or ruined by anything. It's bullshit. Bjori Yenk Yoiga, thank you. Thank you. That's how you pronounce the dude's name from the Young Turks. Yank, Chenk. I think, again, it probably depends where you are and your accent. But I did learn from a YouTube friend I had who was from Turkey, and I did a few collabs with him, and he gave me, for one video, one line to say in Turkish. And you pronounced it totally different to how it looked, and I fucked it up, and he's going like, what kind of idiot are you? And sent me an audio file like, this is how you pronounce it, and I was way off. But yeah, the thing of whether you say a hard sound like Chenk Uyghur or Jenk or Yenk Uyghur, I think that kind of depends where you're from and your accent, because people pronounce names differently all over the place depending on their local accent. But I watched a little bit of Young Turks back when they first started. I don't think I've watched them at all for a couple of years, but Luke, everyone learns swear words first in other languages. Yeah, everyone wants to learn the swear words when you're learning other languages. Teach me how to swear is first thing. Yeah, unless it's someone you're romantically interested in who speaks another language, then you do the smooth act and say, oh, teach me how to say you're beautiful. You'll learn how to say you're beautiful in their native language. Yeah, and yes, I have done that in the past, definitely. So let's smooth move you make. You find out how to say something nice in their language. But if you're not hitting on them, yeah, everyone loves to learn how to swear in other languages. But so I'm not surprised in this little core audience that most people either agree or are okay with me saying fuck Tucker Carlson, and who cares if people... That's the other thing. Tucker Carlson lied through his fucking teeth about what actually happened. Like, virtually everything he said about what happened was a complete fucking lie. Oh, mob attacked. They smashed my front door. There's about a dozen people, and they had a tambourine, and someone did knock on his door. The intention was to get, thinking he was home, get his attention. And they did a few little chants out the front. So basically, everything Tucker Carlson said about the incident was a complete fucking lie. And honestly, the people wetting their pants about, no, you can't do that, you can't do it. Fuck that noise. Like, I'm going to make a video about this, and I intend to include some historical context, like how in the US, on the eve of World War II, the American Nazi Party had a big pro-Nazi rally in Madison Square Garden that a lot of people went to, and there were protesters, and you might go, oh, but with the benefit of hindsight, I'm sure that was different. That was a noble cause. I'm sure the media of the day saw what was happening in Europe, knew the Nazi Party was bad, and they said, yes, the protesters are the real Americans. No, the protesters were reported as being an unruly mob and a rabble and blah, and the fucking Nazi rally was completely legitimate. And it's just like, history tells us how this shit works. History tells us that passively accepting violent extremists achieves nothing. You actually have to actively resist them. The idea that they're going to be overcome with politeness is a fucking farce. Absolutely ridiculous. Oh, and by the way, and hi, nobody, I saw you came in. I was serious. Even if you were hitting on someone, you'd ask to learn how to swear. I have to admit, I also did that when I was trying to hit on a young lady who spoke another language. Besides learning how to say, you're beautiful, I also learned how to swear. See, okay, PBR, you raised the interesting point. Basically what I was saying, I say the death penalty is wrong. The state should not have the power to murder people, because they can't, like you say, we can point out, okay, that person definitely did that horrible murder. That person definitely did that horrible series of murders. And like I said, I'll be completely honest and say there are definitely people that I go, yeah, I'd fucking kill them if I had the option. But there is no time in history where a death penalty has existed when it hasn't been misapplied. So while we can say, oh, when they're definitely evil scumbags and guilty, kill them, the state doesn't have that sort of restraint. And the general public doesn't. The general public, like Donald Trump, aggressively called for the death penalty for the Central Park Six. A woman jogger got raped and murdered in Central Park. And I don't know what the eyewitness thing was about, a group of young black men were responsible. And the cops arrested, I think it was six, they called the Central Park Six. 6 young black men, and said, yeah, they did it. And Trump took out a full-page ad in the New York Times saying, execute them. And they were completely innocent. 5, wasn't it? The cops just arrested black dudes that they grabbed. There is absolutely no question, because we have history to show us the death penalty will always be misapplied. The death penalty is wrong. Like I said, and at the same time, I can say there are people I definitely go like, Yep, definitely. Kill. And we've had this joke before, like if I had like, godlike powers of just smoting people, about a third of the population of the planet would get smoten in the first month. Cheery thought rambling, Johnny. History tells us we're due for a world war. I'd love to disagree with you, but we see very troubling signs that we have seen repeatedly in history. The world's weird and random and chaotic, and I think predicting specific things is very hard, bordering on impossible. But it's hard not to see the similarities between what's happening in the world now and what happened in the lead up to other major wars. Oh yeah, Jason, yeah, the Memphis 3. There are lots of stories of people who were completely innocent, but people decided they were guilty. Pat Talks, you've been asking, sorry man, you've been asking, should homework be banned? I have read some interesting studies that suggest there are basically no positives to homework. It doesn't help learning. It doesn't help with how the kids do at school. There have been a few studies that said basically homework's useless. So ban's a very strong word. I think more schools should look at whether there is anything productive in homework, because there have been lots of questions raised as to whether there is anything positive in homework. And I tend to lean towards no, homework's not a good thing. Yes, now we're getting to the point that we're just a bad species. Yes. Well, there's been a few movies where humans get referred to as a destructive virus, and it's hard to argue with that. Tendo, you're saying Tommy Robinson got denied a US visa. I hope he gets denied an Australian visa, and also Fuckboy from the Proud Boys. They're both supposedly coming to a big fuckhead convention in Australia. Now, I don't usually get on the bandwagon for deny that person entry into the country, but both Tommy Robinson and whatever the fuck his name is from the Proud Boys, Gavin McInnes, they've got nothing positive about it. They're both promoters of violence and hatred. They both have criminal past. Both of them should absolutely be denied entry to Australia. No problem. Like, I didn't jump on, like when Lauren Southern and Stephen Molyneux coming to Australia, I didn't jump up and down and say ban them from coming into the country. They're fuckheads. They're lying pieces of shit, racist fucking filth. They're utter garbage with no redeeming features whatsoever. But fucking Tommy Robinson and Gavin McInnes are scum that promote violence and hate with no redeeming features. Not that Stephen Molyneux or Lauren Southern have redeeming features. They don't. Yeah, I think I'm with you, Ms. Foxfacation. The standard process for looking at criminal history and violence, both Gavin McInnes and Tommy Robinson should be denied entry to Australia. Raymond, you like the idea of certain speech being protected, as in you're allowed to say certain things, but don't import other people's trash. Look, I believe in the general principle of free speech. I just don't believe in consequence-free speech. And this is the thing I keep trying to put up, particularly with fucking morons on the internet who go, free speech. There's no such thing. You're just mouthing meaningless words. Even in the US, which has some of the most comprehensive protections of speech built into law, there are limits to speech. You can't slander people. You can't incite violence or crime. You can't incite sedition against the state. And most, if not all, states in the US have hate speech laws. And hate speech, there's a generally agreed definition of that is when you're singling out a particular group for vilification and potentially inciting violence against them. Yes, that's right. I don't remember exactly what happened with vilification. With Rouge V, I know there was a lot of consternation about him. I had this weird feeling he came into the country, or was it just one of his sidekicks that came into the country? Because the Rouge V talks did happen. I just don't remember if he was there. Oh yes, Belinda, I saw that. They arrested someone over the sewing needles in the strawberries thingy. Yes, Safa, you're right. Yeah, a lot of people in Australia probably think invoking the US idea of free speech means anything in Australia. They're probably the same people who call 911 for an emergency, or talk about gun rights, and they'll say something about the Second Amendment. People are dumb as shit, basically. Oh, yes, Bury, we're talking about Detective Pikachu. Could be good, could be funny. You know, I'm a Ryan Reynolds fan. He can be funny. But at this point, I'd say Detective Pikachu has the potential to be good. I also think it has the potential to be terrible. But at the very least, it's exploring an interesting thing, and it seems to be putting Pokemon into a very real world setting, as opposed to, you know, kids wandering around virtual wilderness areas. It seems to be an urban setting, which I think has potential. Oh, wow. Miss Foxation, did you just look that up? The racist potato had a meeting to ban him. Yeah, they should do. Yes, so for a while, Deadpool will be. We were just saying someone should mash up the Detective Pikachu trailer with Deadpool quotes. I bet someone does. I bet within a couple of days, there is a clip that mashes up the Detective Pikachu trailer with Deadpool quotes. Luke, I don't know if that's true. I've heard that story too. If you dial 911 in Australia, it redirects to 000. I don't know if that's true, because I've never wanted to dial 911 just to test it. Rambling Johnny, yeah, I reckon you're not 100 miles off the mark there, saying there's a Who Framed Roger Rabbit vibe in the Detective Pikachu trailer. No, Ms. Fox, I've forgotten that story, and it made me laugh. Douchebag pro-rapist threatened, he reckoned he'd just get to Indonesia and then get on a boat to Australia and get in illegally. Like, yeah, that shit'll get you in prison. That will get you imprisoned. I mean, while, you know, our current government and every government since the 90s has been all about fucking blocking boat people and imprisoning boat people rather than letting them apply for asylum. When you go to the onshore detention, still talking about Detective Pikachu, the onshore detention camps, there are a lot of Brits and Europeans, and to a lesser extent Americans, in the onshore detention camps, people who overstayed their visa. And we kind of forget that because it does tend to be non-white, non-English speaking people who get put in the detention centres, but it's not limited to them. You do get Brits and Europeans and Americans being put in our detention centres because they overstay a visa or they come on the wrong visa or something like that. So what about refugees who got through and Dutton wasn't minister? The thing is, the Libs have lied so much about the number of boats going. You just can't believe anything they say. So you're expressing exactly what I say. You say some people deserve to die, the wrong people get killed. Look, I think the state should not have capital punishment because the state cannot be trusted to administer it fairly. We just look at every jurisdiction all through history that had a death penalty. It was wrongly and maliciously applied, which is not saying there aren't people I think should die, because I do think that. Rambling Johnny, you want to see the movie about the white boat people? Yeah, well, see, the white people who are in the detention centers came by plane, and they just overstayed their visa, or they had the wrong visa, or something like that. So yeah. Okay, interesting. You looked that up, nobody. Google says dialing 91 in Australia doesn't do anything. They think it's a regular number, and they're just waiting for you to finish dialing. Yeah, there you go. Misfoxication. Yeah, mobiles. Mobiles can still be weird with the emergency number. So you're saying your mobile automatically redirects emergency numbers to 112. You're probably not like, I did that. Oh my God, we did that one live stream. I remember. Saying I was like, I said something like, I wonder if Siri would do it. And I got the phone and I went, Siri, dial emergency. And it started dialing 0. And I'm like, shit, hang on. And then you worry that the system somehow picks up that you dialed 000 and then was hung up, which makes it seem like something bad's happening. But yeah, it's like, oh dear. Safa, the Libs paid Indonesia a lot to stop some boats that were en route to Australia. But the thing is, the Libs fucking lied. They lied non-stop about how many asylum seeker boats, refugee boats were in our area and how many were turned back by our Navy. They're just basically fucking liars and cannot be trusted, particularly on this topic because it's such a big election thing for them. They just fucking lie. Yes. Oh, World of Cricket. Yeah, I did see that Alan Jones was in a hospital. Thoughts and prayers. Yes. Fila, you didn't know Stanley was 95. Yeah, that was quite an innings for him. Really, really did stick around for a while. At least now we'll get, actually, now we'll probably get, there'll be a whole barrage of really fucking creepy stories that, oh, the last days of Stan Lee. Because for the last year or two, there've been all these stories going around that someone was exploiting him or that they weren't, or the different people fighting over his estate and he's being held prisoner and blah, 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 blah. And the media really doesn't give a shit how accurate. Okay, it's not strictly true. Some media will investigate properly, but a lot will just go, ooh, sensationalist story, and they'll just print whatever shit they come up with. So it was very hard to know if there was anything bad happening with Stan Lee. But I bet we get this whole barrage of, ooh, really sorted the last days of Stan Lee stories. They're just like fucking vultures feeding off his corpse. Luke, you're saying if you press power button 5 times, it will count down and call 000. I have heard something like that. I don't have my phone right here. I could try it if my phone was right here, but I don't. But yes, the little differences between countries. Like I remember there was one of those cop shows. I think William Shatner did the voiceover for it, and it was called Rescue 911. And they always had a little thing at the front that says, "You're in Australia. If you have an emergency, dial 000. Don't dial 911. This is an American show." And I think in the UK it's 999. I know it's not 000, but yeah. Well, the cricket, how's a new job? I start on Thursday. Thank you, my friend. Yes, for those who follow me on the socials, because I'm a contractor, I go to new jobs a lot. And last week it just kind of took off. At one point I had 5 people chasing me. One of them dropped out. 2 of them set up interviews on Monday morning. The other 2 were like, "Oh, can you wait for an interview later in the week?" And I went, "Oh, I'm taking the first person who offers me money," quite honestly. So I had these 2 interviews on Monday morning, one at 9:30 and one at 11. And within 15 minutes of me leaving the one at 11, I left there and it was close to lunchtime. So I was walking around the Melbourne CBD looking for somewhere to have lunch. So within about 15 minutes of me leaving the second interview, the agency called and said, oh, they called us straight away and they want you. Are you going to take it? And I said, yes. Okay, that's it. They got in. I'll take it. And then, no word of a lie, within 15 minutes of that call, an agency for the first job said, oh, they really want you. It's really good. Because I thought they were going to take another day or so to respond. And I said, oh, you won't believe this, but you just missed out. I just got another offer and accepted it. So it's nice to be in demand. And then the other two who wanted me to go to an interview later in the week, I had to contact them and say, you missed out. I've already taken an offer. So yay. Look, you're saying 000 has a silent call practice in case you're in the same room as an attacker or something. Yeah, you call them and just order a pizza. If they say, can you send a pizza to this delivery? And they say, do you understand you've dialed 000? Yep, extra cheese is great. Yep. Okay, so there's a terrible thing there and the person's within earshot. Yep, that would be great. How long will that take? But yes, and what's it? So in Europe, it's 112. There you go. We're all different, aren't we? Everyone has to be an individual. People just can't agree to do the same goddamn thing. Yeah, misclassification. It's super weird that we can't text emergency services. I reckon that's super stupid. It's bizarre that we can't text emergency services, because then you could do a silent thing. You could obviously do a silent thing that go emergency to blip, 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 blip. Ooh, that's a big question, Feeler and Sealer. Will upcoming Marvel movies CGI Stan Lee for cameo appearances? Who knows? There's a question of whether that's respectful or disrespectful. And also, I heard rumors that they shot a bunch of Stan Lee cameos in advance of movies because, you know, no one had any illusions that he wasn't going to last forever. And it remains to be seen if there will ever be another Stan Lee cameo. I think Stan would like the semi-immortality of still being in there. Rambling Johnny, you raise a good point. It is too damn easy to spoof texting. That is a valid point. Mind you, it is, of course, easy to spoof numbers as well, as we've learned, particularly in the US with the swatting, the idea of calling in a fake emergency to someone's address, because it's hilarious if the cops kick down their door and grab them. And of course, we have had one person killed in a swatting call in the US. Good go, Lord Queer. Thanks for dropping by, mate. Always good to see you. We'll see your words on the screen. Safa, can swatting happen in Australia? I am not sure. I am not sure what the emergency services can see. Like, I'm not sure. It's possible if you call 000, it's possible that they can see the number that's making the call, even if the number's blocked. I actually don't know. I don't know how easy it would be to spoof 000. Again, we rarely get. See, America has those ridiculous, radical armed responses. If you call and say, someone's being murdered in this house, cops will show up, but it's less of a thing like heavily armed response units smashing down the door and screaming to everyone, get on your fucking knees. It's not impossible for something bad to happen in Australia, but I don't think we're at the same level of risk as the US, because the militarization of their law enforcement is fucking ridiculous. Catherine, they had a swatting storyline on Neighbours, did they? That's awesome. That is awesome. Nobody, you had your phone drop out in an emergency call and they called you back. That tends to suggest that their system knows what number's calling. Yes. Yeah, Luke, I also have not heard of it happening in Australia. I mean, people could certainly do things that so you get a little bit of harassment of from the cops. You know, they called and said, "Oh, this car license plate, you know, selling drugs outside of school," or you know, they did this, that, or the other. It's certainly possible for people to get you harassed by the cops, but I think the risk of a large-scale armed response. Oh, here you go, Miss Foxcation. You've been really good on the Google tonight. Arncliffe resident Matt McGrath, 18, was targeted by unknown assailants. Believed to have sent a spoof text message to Queensland Police claiming he killed his mother and held his father hostage. Now you say that, that sounds familiar. Yes. Yeah, Luke, you're right. In the overwhelming number of cases in Australia, if an emergency call suggests there's something happening at your house, cops will come, but the chances of it being really full-on armed response is really small. I talked to someone to it over Call of Duty. Oh man, I've seen live streams. I've seen video recorded from live streams where someone's been in the middle of a live stream and the front door's been knocked down and they're just going, "Oh fuck, someone swatted me," and they just like lie down on the floor and put their head down because yeah, it's very full on. Oh, that's cynical rambling, Johnny. In Canada, the cops will show up eventually, if they have to, during business hours, providing you're close to an urban area. Yes, Miss Foxcation. Now you highlight that one, the emergency call to Queensland Police. I remember that happening, but yeah. And while it's certainly possible that something bad could happen in Australia, I think the risk here is much lower because our police are less militarized. You know, I've had stupid shit happen with cops, with people calling 000 in an unwarranted situation, and the cops come and they go, "Okay, what's happening? We got a call." And so long as you don't start screaming at the cops, shit is usually manageable. But yeah, it's one different. And look, there are varying things. There are definitely incidents in Australia that the cops have mishandled, but broadly we're at much lower risk than someone in the US. Oh, nobody, you've got a story or a joke for us. Good, I like to hear it. Because it's not just, and while, I mean, what draws our attention in the US are the stories of cops shooting unarmed black people, usually black men. But lots of white people get shot. And also another thing that upsets a lot of people in America is the cops' tendency to shoot someone's dog just because the dog's there and the cops claim, "Dangerous dog," and just shoot the dog. That upsets a lot of people. And that was the case just the other day, yesterday, today even possibly in the US. There was an active shooter at a bar and a black armed security guard took him down and was holding him on the ground at gunpoint, and cops suddenly appeared and shot the black security guard dead. And it's like, yeah, but there's no race problem in law enforcement in America. Not at all. Not at all. That's your imagination. All those shootings, that's just your imagination. Nobody. Okay, man calls the cops to report a burglary in progress. It's told they'll be there 30 minutes. Calls back, says, "Don't worry, I've shot him." And then in a minute, the armed police show up. Yes. I like it. Yes, I have heard that one. It's basically, yes, someone calls and says, "There's a burglar in my house," and the response says the cops will be there in 30 minutes. And he calls back and says, "Don't worry about showing up. I shot the burglar." And then the armed response cops show up like a minute later and no one's been shot. And the cops say, "I thought you said you shot the guy." And the guy says, "I thought you said you're going to take 30 minutes. I've heard that story too. I think it's a joke. I think it's a joke. It's a good one though. I'll suffer. I'm like, a middle-aged white guy, the safest group ever in the US, I would shit myself if cops pulled me over, if cops were suddenly there. Like particularly, God, some of the stories you read about, once you get into provincial areas in the US and they're all the different law enforcement they have, like they have sheriffs and police and state and there's all these different jurisdictions of the cops. And when you hear the stories of shit that goes down in provincial areas in the US, man, if I got pulled over by a cop, I would fucking shit myself. In the US, it's such a high risk thing. And I'm like, I am the lowest risk group, or maybe woman, maybe middle-aged white woman is lower risk than a middle-aged white man. But I would shit myself if a cop pulled me over in the US. Way too much flaky shit happens there. Misfoxification. That's an interesting one. Like, yes, any sort of self-defense weapon is banned in Australia. Tasers, pepper spray, knives, although you'd argue knives aren't a defense weapon, they're an attack weapon. I tend to agree that things like pepper spray and even tasers or some sort of taser should be legal. Now, there is no question people would use those pepper sprays and tasers inappropriately, and they would get used by criminals. There's no question of that. But because they're broadly non-lethal, I tend to agree you should be allowed to have them, and then just prosecute people who use them wrongly. I mean, I know this happened years ago when I was in Sydney, and I hang out with very radical crowds, anarchists and radical feminists, and this one woman who she'd actually smuggled back some pepper spray from the US. It was completely illegal. Like she could have got caught with it on the plane or by customs, but no one found it because it looked like a deodorant spray. It was a disguised pepper spray thing. And so she got it in the country. But then it got weird. She was carrying it everywhere and she got really twitchy and really wanted to use it on someone. And of course, again, a lot of women I know have been through such shitty things. You can imagine really wanting the opportunity to fucking use it on someone. But she just got a bit twitchy. And one day at a bus stop, a drunk sort of staggered by and went, yeah, and didn't really do anything, but lurched into her and she screamed at him, pulled out the pepper spray and pepper sprayed him, and he went down in a screaming heap. And everyone else at the bus stop was like, what the fuck? What did you do? What the fuck is wrong with you? And they called the cops on her. And she unfortunately got quite serious charges for doing it. Yes, weird. PBR, what happened to the cop who shot and killed the Aussie woman from the Seats Patrol? I don't know. I heard that story, and there did seem to be a serious investigation on it. Maybe because it was a white lady. I don't know, but I don't know what happened. Yeah, Belinda, that was super weird. The call that resulted in that Australian woman getting shot was a call for help, and somehow the cop shot her. That was a really, really, really strange story, and I don't know what's happening with it. Feelings here, the movie called Wind River. I don't know that one. At a standoff between cops and private security. I don't know that one. I might look at. Oh, Luke Morford, that's a good one. The Sovereign Citizens. That's the thing that doesn't get publicity. Like there were, although everyone seems to have forgotten about this, there were a couple of incidents. God, I think it was a couple of years ago now, where cops were basically ambushed and killed, and it's the perpetrators seemed to be black rights activists. I don't know if anyone was ever caught for these incidents, but basically cops were ambushed and killed, and that was a big deal at the time. But it honestly seems like everyone's forgotten about now. But what doesn't get a lot of publicity is the amount of cops who've been killed by white people, mainly white men, and and a lot of them have been what's called sovereign citizens. And this is this sort of libertarian right-wing ideology that says the state has no right to impose laws on me. I am sovereign of my own person. I am a sovereign citizen, and I don't have to follow your laws. And a few of these people have killed cops in the US, and it gets almost no coverage. It's very strange. And hello, AgroPixie. How are you? That's a good point, Miss Foxification. Drumpf is like a sovereign citizen. He thinks the law doesn't apply to him. Well, let's see what happens next. Because we are now in a scenario where the Democrats controlling the House in the US electoral system, they can have investigations, they can call witnesses to testify. I mean, yeah, we are in potentially interesting times. I mean, a lot of the time, the US Democrats seem super spineless and not having the guts to really pursue things that probably should be pursued. But maybe something will happen. Maybe something will happen. Who knows? I had a little bit of lemonade left, so I was just putting that in my drink. Yeah, who knows? Who knows? They may do something to get Trump. They might. Who knows? I've ceased to try and predict anything that happens on that front. But yeah. That patch off. Do I think Foxtel should be cheaper? That's a commercial enterprise, man. They've got a lot of competition now. The different subscription services, notably Netflix and Stan in Australia. I think we get Prime Video. Foxtel will be under a lot of cost pressure because, of course, for decades they didn't actually have anything in the way of competition, and now they've got a lot of competition. So who knows what will happen? Oh, AgroPixie, is that Chuck Tingle's podcast? That must be Chuck Tingle. If you had a crazy podcast called Pounded in the Butt by My Own Podcast, that would have to be Chuck Tingle. I think Chuck Tingle is awesome. Safi, thinking Democrats can't pass bills since Republicans control the Senate. Yeah, but also then Democrats can block acts by Trump or whatnot. But you know, then there could be negotiation along the lines of the Democrats saying, "Well, we're not going to pass this in Congress unless you pass this in the Senate." Who knows? But yeah, I basically don't have any faith in the U.S. Democrats. They've been so spineless for so long. I don't know if they're finally going to grow a backbone or not. So this is on one thing I've said this often. While on like a political and social level, I completely disagree with the American Republican Party. But I look at certain things and I can see why some people support the Republican Party, because the Republican Party makes them feel strong. It's an illusion. But the Republican Party does things that have the appearance of being strong, whereas the Democrats do make the mistake of doing things that appear weak. What else? KK's last smile. How are you? Wonderful to see you. For the last 20 minutes or so of time I'm here. Oh, Charlie, I saw that because I follow Chuck Tingle on Twitter, and the latest Tingler is called "Not Pounded in the Butt by Anything at All," and that's okay. And Chuck says that's for buckaroos who don't need to have the pounding to make their life complete, and they need to know that that's okay, which is great. Luke, we definitely have sovereign citizens in the Australia. In fact, a mutual, well, let's call her an acquaintance of Aidsy and mine, like someone Aidsy introduced me to. She notoriously got into the news. She was living in Geelong, and she basically regarded herself as a sovereign citizen, but she actually mixed it in with this weird occulty space person witchy stuff. And so she didn't have a license or register her car or anything like that, because she wasn't bound by the laws of this world. And a cop in Geelong, I think, realised the car wasn't registered, like around the place wasn't registered, and pulled up next to her in the window and said, this car doesn't appear to be registered. I need to see your license. And in her winning way, she said something along the lines of, I don't have a license. I don't need a license because I am an ethereal being and not of this plane. And so your earthly laws don't apply to me. And the cop somewhat reasonably drew the assumption that she was on drugs. I don't think she actually was. I think she was like that when she was completely sober. But the cop drew a conclusion that this person appears to be on drugs. Okay, we're going to stop. And he's like, no, you're getting out of the car. She's, no, I'm not. And he's going, okay, this one's being difficult. And he's on foot next to the car. And he reached in the window to grab the keys and get the keys out of the ignition. And her action with a cop fully in the window of her car was to accelerate off, dragging the cop along with her. And surprisingly enough, she got a jail sentence for that, which was a real sort of in conflict with her sovereign citizen views and the fact that she was a creature from another plane who wasn't bound by earthly laws. Turns out she was bound by earthly laws and spent time in jail as a result of her actions. But you raised a good one. In the US, the Bundys and their assorted lunatic hangers-on, how they avoided getting shot when they were directly threatening law enforcement is absolutely beyond me. Mind you, there was their second one. They did that first thing with the cattle, and when they had guns pointed at law enforcement and saying, we're going to shoot you, and nothing happened. But there was a second one where they took over that building in a state park and had a protest. One of their number did get killed in that, because basically law enforcement surrounded them and said, we're not letting anything in or out. They'll run out of supplies and leave. And someone went to go into town, and the cops chased them down and ran them off the road. And then they stupidly jumped out of the car brandishing guns, and the cop shot them. So at least one of the people in their second standoff was actually killed. But of the ones who were involved in both those absolutely, completely criminal standoffs and threats against law enforcement, I don't think a single one of them was convicted of a crime. So it's like, yeah, criming while white. There you go. Ha! Musical behavior. You're right. If she says she's not bound by earthly laws, because she was saying stuff about being an alien and stuff. An illegal alien, she got on straight to Nauru, deport her off planet, put her in a catapult, I think, fire her off into the sky. Maybe she'll end up on her home planet. For all I know, she was a flat earther too, because she certainly said some extremely strange things. That's just the world, really. Some people are very, very strange. Yeah, I mean, and then obviously to certain people, I'm very strange. I think I'm very balanced and, rational and whatnot. But obviously, there are a lot of people who disagree with me, and some people react just in terms of, if I disagree, there's, something fundamentally wrong with you. I'm just so over wasting time on people, because the internet's just fucking full of people who want to waste your time. And I've got basically a zero tolerance policy for fuckwits. I just new block, and you're the block. I must have won the argument. Go, no, you're actually super, super, super boring, and I have zero interest in wasting time on you. And I also know from experience, you simply will not shut the fuck up. People could say whatever they want about me if they just say it and fuck off. And I'm going to respond and say, well, I think you're a dickhead. And that's fine. But there's just so many of them who simply won't shut the phone. Okay, Kel, I still haven't watched the episode of Doctor Who this week, so we definitely haven't talked about it because I haven't even watched it. Various other things. I've got it recorded and I keep meaning to watch it, but because I like to watch it with Mrs. Angry, and our schedules have kept conflicting over the last couple of evenings, so we haven't got around to watching it yet. Probably watch it tomorrow. But I will talk in general terms about Doctor Who. I'm really enjoying the new Doctor. I'm enjoying this new series. I think it's really good. It feels fun and fresh, and it's awesome. I think they're doing really well with it. And look, it's not going to be for everyone. And if someone doesn't like it, that's fine. Personal taste is personal taste. But yeah, I do see people online really going on about, this is what's wrong with it, this is what's wrong. I find myself having almost zero interest in hearing people talk about what they don't like. I'm far more interested in people telling me what they do like. And of course, there's stuff I don't like, and it's perfectly valid to not like particular things. Individual taste is, after all, individual. But I find myself having very little interest in listening to people talk about what they didn't like, what TV they don't like, what music they don't like, what movies they don't like, what books they don't like. I have close to zero interest in that. I am far more interested in people talking about what they do like, because I like to hear people being excited and passionate. I really hate someone who dumps on someone for being excited about something. That's shit. When someone's excited about something, let them be excited about it. I like to see people being passionate about things. Don't dump on people because their passions aren't your passions. Let people know. Oh, Miss Foxification, you're just getting around to Altered Carbon. I watched that. That explores some incredibly interesting things. If you haven't seen it yet, it's got a bit of a Blade Runner thing. It's quite a long way into the future, and the technology, when they say altered carbon, that's basically about being able to build whatever body you want and put your consciousness into it. And the super rich have become even more separated from the rest of the population. And their lives are unfathomable to ordinary people. Altered Carbon is a long way from perfect. It's very interesting. If I had a criticism of Altered Carbon, I think it relies on sexual violence to be shocking too often. But it certainly explores some really interesting stuff, and there may be more seasons of it, which would be really cool. Oh yes, Philly and Sealer, Jodie Whittaker was in Attack the Block, yes. Interestingly, so is John Boyega, who is of course in Star Wars now. So that's a little low budget but quite good UK science fiction movie, Attack the Block, that two people have come out of it and been the face of major sci-fi franchises. John Boyega in Star Wars, and now Jodie Whittaker in Doctor Who, yes. Oh, Miss Foxification, yes, some of the social commentary in Altered Carbon is quite good. I think it borrows really heavily from the writer William Gibson as well. He's the famed cyberpunk writer. Back in the 80s, had the cyberspace trilogy, the Sprawl trilogy, Neuromancer, and Mona Lisa Overdrive and Count Zero as a trilogy. And he's still writing, and he's writing still fantastic. He's definitely one of my favorite writers. But yeah, I think Altered Carbon borrows quite heavily from William Gibson's sort of cyberpunky stuff as well. I think Altered Carbon's definitely worth watching. It's not among my all-time favorites, but it's definitely worth watching. I actually just finished watching a new Netflix series called Bodyguard. It's a British sort of crime drama built around terrorism, and this guy who's a copper who's on a special protection unit, and involves terrorism and conspiracies and whatnot, and they lay it on like super thick. It's like, oh fuck, another twist, oh another heavy thing, oh another conspiracy. Who the fuck is behind this? Is there more than one group behind it? So ooh, but yeah, it's pretty full on. If you like sort of full on violent crime dramas, you might like The Bodyguard. The lead is the actor who was Robb Stark in Game of Thrones. He's much, because it's a few years later, but he's much harder edged than he was as Robb Stark. He's a war veteran and now a copper, and he's pretty full on. Okay, can you watch that series too, Bodyguard? Yeah, yeah. The things about masculinity, but I also think they did a beautiful thing with just how he looked, because most of the series he looked really hard, like his face was always tense, and I feel like at the end they managed to make him look genuinely happy. Yeah, and the whole thing about macho men facing mental health and difficulty and being in denial and not wanting to get help, that was a pretty good message. Broad Earth was a good series. Like, it's 6 episodes, 6 one-hour episodes on Netflix, so it doesn't take you that long to get through them. I think I started watching it on the weekend and I finished it today. So it doesn't take that long to get through, but it's pretty good. Like, just as an action series, it's pretty good. But there's like a lot of conspiracies and layers and heavy shit happening all over. So if you like that sort of thing, I think you might enjoy Bodyguard, new on Netflix. I think it's a Netflix series, though I'm not sure. I can never go, yeah, because Netflix also does this thing. Like, you get the series that are actually made and paid for by Netflix, but they also do this thing where they get exclusive rights for a particular show in a particular region, and when you watch it in that region, the thing pops up saying a Netflix original, but it wasn't made by Netflix, but they bought the rights to show it. But anyway, KK, you may be right, it might be a BBC series, but yeah, I think Netflix is the first time it was available in Australia. So yeah, this Foxification. Have I seen Continuum? That sounds familiar, and I think I haven't watched it. That's a sci-fi series that's on Netflix, isn't it? Oh my God, there's so much I could be watching. I have been watching a bunch of stuff, but yeah, I haven't watched Continuum. No, like, because I like comedy and animation in particular. There's a new one that they gave a bit of fanfare on Netflix called Super Drag, an animated series called Super Drag. That's not doing it for me at all. I've like watched the first episode and I'm like, new. I don't know who the demographic for this is, but it's not me. That's not doing it for me at all. But I do like animation. I mean, and the stuff that was, you know, as much as the fandom for Rick and Morty is terrible, I actually like the series Rick and Morty. I like BoJack Horseman. Yeah, well, the other animations, the Matt Groening one, what was it called? The sort of medieval magical one. My brain's gone a bit blank, but it was a new Matt Groening series. I watched it all, and I was a couple of times I was like, oh, that was kind of clever and cute, but I was never really super into it. And the same as Final Space, the animated sci-fi series. That's it, Keiko. Disenchantment. never really did it for me, but it's got more seasons coming, so I'll watch them. Final Space, a lot of people I know thought Final Space was awesome. I watched it. I was like, but I was not ever super into it. Maybe later seasons we get better. But there's another sort of obnoxious one that I think Daniel Tosh is in called Paradise PD, and I watched a bit of that. And I went, no, this is not doing it for me at all. I'm not watching any more of that. But yeah, so I kind of hold out hope that there'll be more good animated things. But yeah, I've been impressed with BoJack Horseman overall, but the new season, because up to like season 5 or something, I thought it might start to flag a bit here, but I was really impressed with the most recent season of BoJack Horseman. I think that's a really, really clever show. Really favorite. You like Mr. Meeseeks. Yeah, generally I like Rick and Morty. I think it's really. I was just rewatching the season 3 Rick and Morty. Finished the season. Oh God, just yesterday maybe. I'm looking forward to seeing more Rick and Morty. But yeah, particularly toxic fandom in Rick and Morty. Yeah, you know, I like animation, so I'm always keen to see if someone's got good new animation. But hey, look at that. It's 10 o'clock. Been going for 2 hours. I might go to bed, although I don't have to work tomorrow. I start my new job on Thursday, which is a very odd day to start a job. Starting a job on Thursday. But that's what I'm doing. I'm starting a job on Thursday. So sounds like I'll be diving right into that. But yes, I'm going to try and make a Wankfat video tomorrow talking about the people who protested outside Tucker Carlson's house and how I don't give a fuck about people who are upset going like, oh, you shouldn't do that. That's not the right way to do things. Fuck it. He's a white supremacist. He's a piece of shit. Catherine, time flies when you're having fun. And I certainly had fun. Hope you all had fun too. Thank you very much for dropping by. I hope to see you again soon. And yes, I feel like I'm going to piss off a lot of people with this Tucker Carlson video, because a lot of right-thinking people have gone, no, that's the wrong thing to do. And I'm going to say, fuck you, you're pandering to Nazis. And so, oh, hi, Frank. Bye, Frank. I'm literally just going, good night. Music David, you might miss the Thursday stream. Oh, well, we'll catch up again soon. Oh, yes, Mr. Foxification, thanks for that. If you want, give me a thumbs up. Thank you for the good wishes for the new job and everything. I will see you again soon. Until then, take care and bye for now.